Aaron McCoy and Timothy Wayne Boykin. And they are playing a harmonized duet of Racer X, doing like some crazy arpeggiated solos, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I was just in awe watching these two guys. If I'd seen any single one of them doing it, I would have freaked, but they were playing it together, so they both learned their parts. And I attached myself to these guys really quickly. And boy, not a lot of time went by before I realized that Bel Air High School was a way different place. Suddenly I was a very small fish in a really big pond. Lots of great musicians. It was the greatest learning experience of my life with music, was that time, being around these guys. You know, Eric, Kyle, Russell, Tim, Aaron, Mike Warrett. I mean, just, you know, all these incredible musicians. And that Tim Boykin, he blew my mind, and then he took me in and allowed me to just kind of experience with him guitardom. It was a wild ride. As time went by and we started playing together more often, there was something I realized about him, and it really took me being around more and more musicians to realize it. He was the most giving musician I knew. It didn't matter what season you would go through, because for any of you who've done anything for any period of time, what you'll find is that you have different styles that come into whatever it is you're doing. Different styles of music would come into our lives, and he was always very open to it. He was very open. I felt like he and I could communicate musically, and there was never any strangeness. If he was wanting to explore a different avenue of music, I always felt like I could relate to what he was doing and see what he was doing. He was exactly the same way. If there was anything he didn't really like, he would just talk about it and say, hey, you know, maybe there's something we can do here or do there. I never experienced that with a musician as well as I did with him. The ability to adapt to whatever, and we always saw the best in what the other person was doing. It was amazing. And I've had the privilege, as I'm just looking across this room at the musicians, like, to work with these unbelievable guys. But when I got involved with Tim, that was 30 years of music together. And he never said, that sucks. Didn't matter what I did. He was just always like, man, I really like it, we can figure out a way. Maybe he did think it sucked, but he was really cool about how we would move around it. So that relationship was huge. We always supported each other. It didn't matter what he did, I always heard the beauty in his music. Always heard it, whatever style it happened to hit. So I just felt like no pride. Now, he had a great pride as far as expecting the best, but he never downed me for whatever I wanted to explore. And I'm going to wrap this into these other two areas, but to me, that showed a level of maturity and love that's hard to come by. It's hard to come by. And we could go on and on about music, because I still refer to him if ever I'm discussing guitar player with people that have just met me. And I understand we have John Good here, so the bar is set really high. But I always say that Tim is the greatest guitarist. I've ever known. It wasn't just that either. He could write music like crazy. He was just a beautiful writer. There's number one. Number two, cooking. This guy, man, I tell you what. You know, I consider Kyle to be the barbecue pit master. Like, he could just, he could do whatever. Tim, he had the ability to create a culinary masterpiece out of nothing. Like, he would go into the kitchen, I'd be like, you're not going to find anything in there, brother. And he would come up with like zucchini and breadcrumbs, and it would like blow your mind. The breaded zucchini. It was unbelievable. And also, you would look at what he was using to cook with. You'd be like, there's no way you're gonna get, it's just like these old pans, like these pie pan, 20-year-old pie pan. A couple of little like random forks and stuff that probably were handed down from generations. And he would just come up with this stuff. Now, here's one of the stories that Kyle told me yesterday. I'm not gonna get into detail because at some point tonight, I'm hoping if you do get the opportunity, you get to hang out, you get to tell it. But what I noticed about this man, he used food to engage, to create friends, to show love. That's, man. And so often when I look scripturally, I see how food is such an important part of building community. It's huge. And that guy would make sure that you're eating every time. You'd go over and he'd be like, hey, let me whip you up some. You know, I'd come over, I hadn't seen him in a year, I'd go to his house and he instantly starts cooking something. And then he serves up like this little gourmet thing, like out of nothing. He had the ability to cook, but it wasn't just that. It was what he used it for. And Kyle's story last night just absolutely reminded me that he bridged the gap with food. Something he was amazing at. I remember also, we were living together in an apartment, and Kara would come over, and he pulled out the breaded zucchini. Am I right? Breaded zucchini. Man, blew her mind, right? I tried for years, well, probably I didn't, to get this girl to eat vegetables, and here comes Tim, and he just whips it out, and she's like, that breaded zucchini was something special. I'm like, I know, it's unbelievable how he did that. And again, I know that, man, Eric, Kyle, each of these guys are great cooks, but it was the way that he, no matter what he was going to give, he was going to give. And with food, he just bridged that gap in a beautiful way. And I didn't really realize it at the time. It really took a lot of years to recognize that he was a connector with these simple ingredients, music, and now food. I could go on about the cooking, but I think we're going to go to number 3, okay? Forgive me. I got to get this now before it starts to become a problem. All right, again, I felt a calling and an understanding through Scripture. 1 Corinthians 13. I'm just going to read it out here real quick. If I speak in tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind, and does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is my number 3 point and the final point. Tim was a lover. He had a huge heart for people and for animals. I was talking with Greg last night at Tim's apartment, and it was interesting that I think together we sort of came to a realization. I think that guy loved so much that when it wasn't returned, for him it was really awkward if he's going down the street and he would want to say hi to someone and they wouldn't respond. A lot of it could be that he was a little bit socially awkward as he started having more problems with the tumor. I think that he loved so much and he couldn't feel it coming back that it helped him seclude. He almost had to protect himself because he wanted so badly to engage people and have them show him what he wanted to show them. And we're just so weak. We're so weak at that. We're so busy filling up our time, picking a select few that we're going to show that to. And I felt like it caught him off guard. He didn't realize that's how it worked. And he would protect himself because he was such a lover of people. And then I think people misconstrued that as him being standoffish or, who knows, a recluse. But I can see that if you were able to get through that outer bit and he trusted you, man, that guy would do anything for you. He would go to the ends of the earth to make you happy. You would be in a special place with him that it would be difficult to leave. And another interesting point about this man in love is, like, I never saw a male engage the love of animals like this guy did. I thought it was a little bit weird. I also noticed it in his brother Tom as well. There were 2 instances where we're driving. One of them was with my daughter Kara, and we hit a cat. And I felt really bad about it. Tim is like, stop the car. I stop the car, he gets out. He goes over to this cat, and it wasn't even like he was just going through the motions. Like, you could tell he really felt something about this. It was a big deal. And I watched him takes the cat, and he goes and buries it right there. You could just see him lamenting. You could see him lamenting over it. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy's a trip. And we were in the car again. It happened again, just him and I this time. And I thought, surely the guy goes out, he does the exact same thing, just years later. He goes out and he does the very same thing. There was something childlike about him that I feel like the earth wasn't able to take. I think as we get older, it becomes very easy to get so serious. You get so caught up, you know, life is coming at you a million miles an hour. I think we probably all accumulatively in here have some pain, even about what's happening right now in our world. We're struggling. A lot of us are struggling for finances, we're struggling for love, we're struggling, a lot of struggles going on. I think if we're not careful, we will lose that childlike faith and ability to engage things. And often if you ask me, if a brother asks, hey, what do I pray for you? Faith like a child. I say it over and over again. And people think it's kind of ridiculous. Why do you want faith like a child? Why do you want to be like a child? Well, it's funny you would ask that. Let me read another scripture to you real quick before we wrap this up. Matthew chapter 18, this is Jesus speaking to his disciples. At the time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, right? Who's the best? Who's the top-notch guy?